A very good evening to you. My name is Timothy Polio, and welcome to another Newsmaker Live broadcast right here on DBS Television. We are also on Facebook. The individual is responsible for the nation's safety and is responsible for the police, the fire service, also responsible for the Ministry for Justice. He is Senator Herman Gill Francis, and he is my guest on this evening's program. We conclude at 10 o'clock with the clip that peaked, and from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, we'll be taking your calls, so please stand by for that. Mr. Minister, welcome to the program.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Steve.
Welcome. Over the last few weeks and even months, we've been having a serious crime problem in St. Lucia. Of course, it dates back over to several years as well, but there has been an intensity in terms of the robberies, in terms of some of the homicides, and so on. How are you planning to deal with, or how are you dealing with this particular problem?
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Tim. But I think I need to give a historical background as to where we came from and where we are now. And I think that the impacts issue has a lot to do with what is happening with our police officers. And when we came in, the police officers were demoralized, lack of equipment, and there was a minister that even would not even speak to them. So we had a monumental task to handle. I remember on the hustling and bustling of the elections, we promised the people of St. Lucia that we would have dealt with it. And we came in, as soon as we came in, we did a number of things, like the appointment of the DPP, giving him some more crown councils, and so on. And we really thought that doing that, we would have been able to appease the Americans. But then we got to know very quickly. We had discussions with people like General Mattis and De La Pena in Mexico earlier last year. And then I realized how deep this problem was. Because of the basis of what was said to the Americans were of the opinion that the police officers did things that were wrong. And the only way that we could get out of the Leahy law is by prosecution. And so we had to start all over again. I have spoken to the Minister of Justice in Jamaica. The Prime Minister has spoken to the Prime Minister of Jamaica to try to get some of the statements that were collected. And that has not happened. The Jamaicans are adamant that they are not going to give those statements. So we had to start all over. What we did, we withdrew 3 police officers from the police force and attached them to the DPP's office to start over the investigations. So you remember at least 12 of the officers were taken in, statements were collected, and an interview done, and subsequently released. We are doing well, and hopefully we will soon have some prosecution.
But why do you think that the Americans are so adamant about the authorities here prosecuting those police officers who were involved in the alleged extrajudicial killings? Shouldn't that be our jurisdiction, our domain, our decision to make?
I agree it's our decision to make, but when you are politicians going to the embassy and telling the Americans that there was a ploy and there's a ploy on the part of the United Workers' Party to get rid of certain criminals because of certain elements within the United Workers' Party, then obviously the government of the United States would take it very seriously. And that's where the problem with the Labour Party found itself in. Because when they won the election in 2011, they spent almost 3 years before anything happened. And it's because the Americans prodded them. Then the impacts guys came in, reported the matter. The legislation was changed so that the guys could come in, take statements, investigate, and so on. They were never attached to anybody. So the commissioner had no control over them. The DPP had no interaction with them. They reported directly to the Prime Minister. That by itself is a no-no. At the end of the day, a report was submitted. So it's almost like a précis of the statements that were collected. So that's not evidence. It's just giving you an idea, something we talk about when we study and we write essays, the main idea. So from every statement, they gave you what the main gist of the subject was. You can't do anything in that. And then the Prime Minister, a constitutional lawyer, one of the best, and you must admit that. Only yesterday, he showed his acumen in the House by lecturing to the government on the interpretation of law. So he talked about the literal law, that we must take the act and interpret it literally. And I was very happy to hear him saying that, because when we talk about the Deputy Speaker and we take the law literally, we are correct. That is the House that must have a Deputy Speaker and not the government side. So it was good on his part. So I asked myself whether that was a deliberate ploy on the part of Dr. Anthony or it was a mistake. But having read Francois's book, and I just want to read a little quote from it, and it's on page 5, Restored Confidence, and I think it is aptly named. Another motivation for writing Restored Confidence was to challenge the irresponsible and altogether bogus address which was delivered by the then Prime Minister Kenny Anthony on March 8, 2015. My response to various aspects of the address is intended to lay out the truth of the events of 2011. I have also utilized the occasion to advance the political reasons behind the United States government imposition of levy sanctions on St. Lucia, and the fact that the police department was sacrificed in the process. So we are now having to rebuild the police force. The confidence of the police force is at an all-time low. And so we have strategically decided that we need to pay a lot of attention to the police.
But before you go into that, are you able to make any kind of disclosures, call names as to who are the individuals who would have had communication with the Americans on the alleged extrajudicial killings, and that's during Operation Restore Confidence between 2010 and 2011?
Well, they remember that there is something, that a dossier from the United States Embassy that used to come out, and a number of persons were mentioned. The former Minister of Home Affairs, Lacobinier, visited Barbados. Janine Compton did visit Barbados. As to what she said, I don't have any idea. But there's also this...
But you say visited Barbados. So anyone can visit Barbados.
She went to the embassy. So, and I'm sure that there was some interviews being done there. And you must also remember that Janine Compton left the United Workers' Party because she said that she could not work with Richard Frederick. So that is important. And then there was the editor of The Voice, who used to write this Garbage and Kings column. He too went to Barbados to give information about Richard Frederick. So these are some of the persons that actually spoke. I know of a police officer himself, a senior superintendent, did in fact visit Barbados and give information to the police. So these were credible people. And so the government of the United States accepted what was being said to them, and they acted. So you saw what happened. The visa of Richard Frederick was withdrawn. Vernon Francois, Moses Charles, and other senior officers.
Mr. Francois' visa was also withdrawn?
Well, I don't think it was withdrawn, but he couldn't travel to the United States. Yeah. So if you can't travel to the United States, inevitably you don't have a visa. And he was at the airport when he was stopped and said that he was not allowed to travel.
But I'm putting to you that you don't have any evidence with regard to the communication, the discussion that those individuals had with the Americans.
No.
Do you?
No, I don't. But, I mean, there's something you call circumstantial evidence. And sometimes circumstantial evidence is even stronger than eyewitness evidence, because you can make a mistake. But when the circumstances tie in and you can follow the trail, that is even more powerful than evidence coming from direct information.
Well, I like to say, well, maybe it's suspicion, but I don't know about circumstantial evidence.
Americans don't act on suspicion. They would act on hard facts, hard information.
But going forward, how therefore do you deal with this impact?
Okay.
As a government?
And what we have done is to put in the DPP, okay, strengthen the Crown Prosecution Unit, and to have the investigators from the force do that investigations. We have done everything possible. The firearms have been tested and everything. And it is with the DPP for the DPP to decide, well, whether he can go forward with any of these cases. And we will not do like the previous government did to interfere with the decision of the DPP.
We're talking about 3.5 years now that this
Yes,
government has been in
that's what I'm
office.
telling you. It's a difficult process.
You have another year and a half.
It's a difficult process, Tim. And I'm praying that we deal with it now, before the 3.5 years. Because if, God forbid, the United Workers' Party were to lose this election, we're going to take another 5 years. Because the Americans, I'm sure, will not work with the St. Lucia Labour Party. I'm sure of that.
Why you
I mean, you look at the stance of the St. Lucia Labour Party towards the Americans. They align themselves with Venezuela. So they have criticized the Americans on that. You don't criticize the Americans on their foreign policy. They will hold that against you. Joe Biden visited the Caribbean, and every prime minister visited Trinidad to meet Joe Biden. Our prime minister at the time did not. He went to Cuba instead. So all those sort of things. Your philosophy, the Labour Party they expelled socialism. Okay? And that is the philosophy. So at the end of the day, you are going to rub the Americans the wrong way. You have done it before by giving information to the Americans and not acting upon it, not doing anything.
But again, let me stress, particularly for the benefit of myself and this station in particular, that we don't have any evidence of what discussions those individuals had with the Americans.
I agree with you, Tim.
We were not the fly.
But I'm telling you,
we were not the fly on the wall.
The circumstances
to have been the fly
the circumstances
on the wall.
are obvious.
Could be coincidental.
Not coincident. Not in that way. That those individuals would go to the embassy in Barbados, a senior police officer, the Minister of Home Affairs. That cannot be coincidence. It cannot be.
So back to the crime situation in
Yes.
St. Lucia. What therefore do you think? How is this affecting the police? Because you're giving the impression that this has impacted.
It has affected the police. But like I said, based on the performance of the government and the way we have treated the police, so we have given them new vehicles, motor vehicles, new motorcycles. The Prime Minister's wife's charity, okay, has gone to police stations, give them televisions, fridges, and those sort of things to make their lives a little easier. So they've realized that this is a government that understands their plight and will do any and everything to make life more comfortable for them.
But this is also a government that has not been able to successfully deal with this matter.
Agreed, and I said
This
so
sort
to
of
him.
Damocles that's hanging
I
over
told you
their
that it is, and I told you sometimes you're coming in for a lot of good information and promises and so on. But when you get in here and you recognize the gravity and enormity of the thing that you have to deal with, you have a problem. And I'm telling you this. I mean, up to last week, week before, sorry, I was in Miami. I attended Southcom and CANSEC. Okay, so we had the Canadians, the Americans, and all the Caribbean countries with their defense ministers, not defense ministers, defense attaches and generals and this sort of things, and commissioners of police. I was the only minister attending, and it's because of the Leahy law that prohibits the commissioner from attending. So I attended. And when my turn to speak, I said that this was the last time that I'm coming to this meeting, because it hurts my heart to sit here and to realize the amount of things that the other countries are getting and St. Lucia is being left behind. Okay? I cannot come here and accept that. So I will not attend the meetings anymore until we have settled that Leahy law. I did that. Okay? I was supported by the gentleman from the RSS, the director, Captain Shulan, and everybody accepted that, yes, I was correct, and it's unfair for St. Lucia to be left behind. I also mentioned to them that a small country like ours, of 180,000 people, we already have 42 homicides. When St. Vincent is next door, only has about 9. Grenada has about 5. So what is happening? What is happening in St. Lucia? It's because of our inability to train our officers, for our officers to get the requisite skills that we can deal with these other things. So the government is taking on its own. We're not going to throw our hands up in the air and say that we're not going to do anything. And so we have given the Marine unit, we spent almost $1 million, we've given them engines for the boat. We fixed up the radar system in Viewport, so now we are catching more guys on the seas. Lots of things. We have now done the CCTV. We have spent $5 million. Okay, we are now going to be spending another $11 million. So the highway from Grosile to Castries has 185 cameras. We are now going to be putting another 380 in Grosile, Castries, Viewport, and Soufrière. Okay, we have given the police over 350 radios. That has never happened before. Okay, so now the police officers can communicate because the cell phones are being monitored and all these other things, so that they can now use the radios, and when something happens, a greater presence will be felt. So if they see something and they call, other persons can react. So we expect that with the rollout of these radios, we're going to see some more police interaction. If you look on the streets now, you'll see police officers are there every day, they're working hard. But the criminals have adapted. And I'm sure that you have seen some of the videos being sent out by criminals. Don't pass there, the police officers are there. Okay? Showing from Entrepose Secondary School, 2 police officers patrolling, and the video is being sent out. Police officers are there, and the explicits at the end of the video. That is what is happening. So we have to readjust. So every Monday, we have now what we call the Security Council, headed by the Prime Minister, the Attorney General, myself, the Commissioner and the hierarchy of the police force. We have the former Registrar of the High Court and some of the guys from Pumandu. They come in every Monday and give us a breakdown in the crime statistics. We have been doing fairly well. In May, June, we got to 10%, and that's what we had agreed to, that we'd bring down the crime rate to about 10%. We did that. But then we noticed that in September, October, it went back up. Okay, we started seeing, we got 6 and 7%. Then came, now this month is down to 3.5%. But we're still doing better than we did last year. But what we have noticed is the frequency of the robberies and the stolen vehicles and stealing from vehicles. So there are 2 things, stolen vehicles and stealing from vehicles. These are the predominant offenses that are taking us, and burglaries. We have been able to deal with the assaults because the police officers are on the ground. Okay, so we're going to intensify. We have 40 new special police officers to augment that group to patrol. And we are doing things differently because we know the criminals are adapting, so we now have to adapt. And only yesterday I had my meeting with all members of my department, justice, police, prisons. So everybody knows what we're doing. And that's the plan. So that, and then at that time the commissioner agreed that with the equipment that we are getting, that we are now, he thinks that he can achieve the mark of 10%.
But with all the resources that you are utilizing in terms of the CCTV cameras, in terms of other things, in a nutshell, don't you think that the people truly deserve more from the police in terms of their effectiveness, in terms of the responses to the various
again, but that's it. Again, Tim, you have to put everything in perspective. When you do call the police and the police does not have sufficient vehicles to respond, then you're going to get an issue there. We have some bad police officers, but the majority are very good officers. So when an officer does something good today, okay, for a whole month officers are working well, and one police officer goes on a tandem and does something bad, the whole police force is tainted again. And so you have to restart. So the officers are working. They are working. And I do have confidence in the commissioner and the hierarchy force that they will do better.
What about the training, the necessity to train?
That is
the person,
right? So
is the Americans the only?
No, they're not the only one, Tim. They're not the only one. And thanks for saying that. They're not the only one. But the Americans are so powerful that the European governments are not getting involved. So you'd get training from England, you would get training from France and these places. They're not getting involved in that anymore. because the Americans, they know.
So you're not getting training from the EU, from Europe?
No, not at all. So they know that if they do it, then the Americans are going to give a backlash. Okay? So what we have done, what I did, and I want to thank Ambassador, the Taiwanese ambassador. I was supposed to have gone earlier in the year, but because of medical issues, I couldn't go. But he insisted, because of how I used to speak to him about training, that he made sure that I was able to go. And my DPS, Mr. Quinlan and myself visited Taiwan, and we had some very, very good meetings, very productive. And in the new year, you will see police officers, firemen, and prison officers going off to be trained.
Are you in a position to make a prediction as to whether impacts will be solved before the tenure of this government ends?
When you say impacts solved,
I mean, the whole matter involving the Americans.
We are going to have some prosecution before our tenure.
We'll have prosecution.
Yes, we will have. I can promise you that. We will have.
This is with a view to appeasing the Americans.
Well, not appeasing the Americans. Like I said, Tim, we started the investigations completely. We are at a stage now, an advanced stage, that we think that we can prosecute. Okay? It's not all cases that may be prosecuted, but we think that we have sufficient on a couple of them that we can deal with.
So prosecution will take place.
Will take place.
It's imminent.
It
will happen.
It will happen.
And that is on the basis of what you'll have
my information you covered, the investigations, and so on.
You talk about police officers being demoralized.
Yes.
Those police officers who were involved in Operation Restore Confidence, who might be watching this broadcast right now.
Yeah, they are. That
will further demoralize them.
No, I mean, Tim, prosecution does not mean conviction. Okay? And you must always maintain that somebody is innocent until proven guilty. It is better that you prosecute and get caught and get acquitted than there will be no prosecution, because you'll always be tainted. It's almost like rape. Somebody accuses you of rape, you go to court, the person doesn't turn up, the case is dismissed for want of prosecution, you are still going to have that stigma, because people will say you paid a person off or you did this and that. So it's always good that you are acquitted in a court of law, where all the evidence comes out, and people can say, a jury of your peers can say, no, the police officers did not do anything wrong. It is better for them. So it is not prosecution. But
if it does happen
conviction.
That way, how do you think the Americans will react?
No. I'm telling you, Tim, that when we have done that, this is it. Because at the end of the day, Dr. Anthony could have dealt with this matter in a different way. Okay, he could have brought in the Jamaicans to investigate the matter, give the DPP all the information, and if there was sufficient or new evidence there, the DPP could have then written to the AG to have all those inquests that had been dealt with reopened. So that would not have happened. But he tainted everything by going out there and making these statements. And he didn't only do it once, he did it a couple of times, asking the police officers to own up and those sort of things. You can't do that when there is going to be an investigation or there was an investigation. You have to allow due process to take place. So at the end of the day, Tim, like I said, if I was one of the members of the team, I would want to have my day in court.
Because you want to clear your name.
Exactly.
Do you think, to a large extent, those incidents of that nature is causing people to believe that politicians are interfering in the operations of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force? Because that accusation is also being leveled at you.
Yes.
As Minister with responsibility for Home Affairs and Security.
And I'm very surprised that it came from Philip J. Pierre. I've always had the greatest respect for Philip J. Pierre. In my time with the Labour Party, I realized that Philip J. Pierre was the only person who actually took a stand against Kenny Anthony when he came to me. And so I had the greatest respect for Mr. Philip. And plus, we were at college, I was his captain at cricket. So I always had that soft spot for him. But because of politics, you can go on and Paul's show and say that I am interfering with the police force. When the commissioner has come out on a number of occasions...
I don't think he made direct reference
to
you as
minister. No, he said so. That the police officers can't do this, and because the minister is interfering, and those sort of things. So I'm reviewing the tape. I have the recording, okay, and I'll be speaking to my attorney, okay, and based on what my attorney tells me, I will take the action, because I have never, Timothy, done that. The commissioner and myself have a very good rapport, and he will tell you. As a matter of fact, when he got his promotion to, I think, inspector, I was the one who actually gave him his promotion and took him to the prosecution unit. So he has always been very appreciative of that. I'm senior to the commissioner. Okay, both of us have law degrees, but my experience is a little more than him. I'm much older than him. I've been through the wars and tribulations. So if there's an issue and he wants advice, I advise him. Okay, I'm the minister with the responsibility for the police. And if things are going wrong, they don't blame the commissioner, they blame the minister. So I would have opportunity at certain times to call the minister and say, the commissioner, and say, Commissioner, this is happening. How are you going to deal with this matter for me? And maybe he'll tell me. But he will not give me the intricacies of the operation to tell me, well, he'll send 10 police officers there and they will have guns and this thing. He will not do that. But he'll tell me I'll have more roadblocks. I'll have more boots on the ground. Is that interfering? Well, I should be in the know. Okay, I don't want to know the specifics of the operation, but I know for a fact that when I do speak, I can say, well, the commissioner is doing A, B, C, D. Okay, the commissioner is doing his town hall meetings, his community policing, he's beating the people, and these are good things. Sometimes they invite me to come, but I said if I come, the chances are that I may take over the show, or I may say certain things that looks like I'm contradicting the commissioner, or the commissioner contradicting me. So that is not a good idea. But I encourage him to do it, because I think people need to know what the police officers stand for. And I know the commissioner does not stand for indiscipline. They have told you that they have disciplined a number of police officers, and they continue to do that. They have reached a stage where they are actually assigned a senior officer, superintendent, I think his name is Ronald Phillip, to deal with disciplinary matters. And that is good. So I've never interfered with the police force, and I will never do that, because I have been in there and I know what it is. Okay, and I would not give any commands or instructions to the commissioner, who has been very clear that the minister, he will not accept or follow any instructions from the minister.
You are watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television, and we are also on Facebook. My guest this evening is the island's minister with responsibility for home affairs, justice, and also national security. When we return in just a moment, the location of the magistrate's court on Coral Street has been a sore point, and there are calls for it to be relocated so that the Ave Maria primary and infant schools can return to a state of normalcy. And that is following several bomb threats that have been issued, resulting in the disruption of classes. We'll be hearing from the minister on that in just a moment. Please stay with us. You are watching Newsmaker Live on Facebook as well as on DBS Television. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You are watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. We are also on Facebook. At about 9:30 this evening, we'll be taking your calls. My guest this evening, Senator Herman Gill Francis, Minister for Home Affairs, Justice, and National Security. We had this bomb scare last week, which disrupted classes at the Ave Maria Infant and Primary Schools, and bring into focus again, sharp focus, Mr. Minister, the location of the Magistrates Court. And people are calling now for that court to be removed from its current location. What's it?
Okay, again, thank you, Tim. I want to start by saying that I was out of state when the incident occurred. And I want to say openly that I understand the concerns of the teachers and the parents of the children. I really wish that the children did not have to go through that tumultuous experience. But Tim, we have to be reasonable. We have to be practical. And we have to be honest with ourselves. When we entered government, there were no courts. The only courts that operated were Naira Court. And that was it. And this government has looked and tried everything possible to get a location for a courthouse. We started with the Bernard Hill Cultural Center, and you know the story very well. I will not go and rehash it. So we had to give up. We then went to police headquarters to demolish the old prisons and to start a new police headquarters and a Hall of Justice. Again, the National Trust came in, and for the remains of some convicted criminals who were executed, stopped the project. And it's almost 2 years now. Justice delayed is justice denied. And we had to find a way, a place to put the courts. So let's look at the historical background of where the courts have normally been placed. We had the court in Castries between Labrie Street and Pena Street, directly opposite the Catholic Church Cathedral. Then you have the Presbytery, and you have the RC Boys School, which I attended all those years. They were bomb scares at the time. And in the court there, we had both the Magistrate Court and the High Court operating simultaneously. Naira Court is on the highway. We have two schools, Carmen Henry and Camille Henry schools, located in the vicinity. And Carmen, yeah. Thanks for the correction, in that area. But what's even more dangerous is that you have two gas stations within that same area. You have the VG playing field and the sports complex right there. And this is what we inherited. Okay, Tim, the ideal way is that we should be away from housing areas, from schools and so on. That is the ideal, and that is what we want. But the pressures of the justice system and the location is almost inevitable that we have to go there. So at the end of the day, we don't have the building does not belong to the government. So it is leased. The owner had to expend a lot of money to retrofit and put it so that it can meet the demands of a district court. So that's money that's been paid. So we have a lease arrangement. How do we get out of that lease arrangement, Tim? And even if you were to move, does that mean there's not going to be a bomb scare or a bomb call near to the Ave Maria School or near to the RC School? It happens in all other businesses, the banks. It even happened to the school itself, that a bomb scare was, a call was made to the school. So that tells you. But nobody has decried the perpetrator of those calls. Nobody has said that we need to stand against those persons. We need to send a strong message to those individuals when they are caught. I'm praying that the police officers will eventually catch somebody. We have leads, and we are working on the leads. We have actually caught one individual. Again, there was no hue and cry when that person was caught. Okay? No hue and cry. But now you want the government to remove a court there, which is right now is almost impossible, Tim. I honestly, if I had a different location, we would have done it. okay, I would have been able to try to encourage my Prime Minister, let's give the gentleman his money for the 3 years or 4 years that we are going to be there, and for the safety of the children, let us go somewhere else. But there is nowhere that is available. Nothing is available, Tim. Okay? So we have to make do. Okay? What we have to do is to look at procedures and policies. So we can look at one. Okay? We do our programs in the schools, the evacuation programs for fire, for tsunamis, for flooding, for hurricanes, earthquakes, and these sort of things. So we now have to strengthen it. But even if you do all that, Tim, when the thing actually happens, it's a different thing, you know. It's different, okay? And if you have not practiced for a while, there's going to be panic, okay? So I'm not going to blame anybody for that. But we need to do that because we are a small country. We don't have the land mass that we can put a hall of justice anywhere. And halls of justice in the Caribbean are always within the city. Just go to Barbados, go to Trinidad, go to St. Vincent, go to Grenada, and you will see the courthouses are in the middle of town. Okay? Because you want to dispense justice, but you don't want to put a burden on the persons who are going to go to the court to seek justice. So if you put it way out of town, okay, they have to get bus. Then when they're there, the case is not called for about 6 hours. You have to go to a cafeteria to buy lunch and all these other things. So it must be accessible, very accessible to the poor man to be able to enter there.
What's the long-term plan? In terms
The
of
long-term plan
justice?
is that we are going to, as a matter of fact, only last week we got the go-ahead. We have now designated a place at Borderley because the law says that at a prison area, and as long as you have the death penalty in place, that there must be a place for persons to be buried if they have been executed. So we have done that. We have a place, and we are taking out the bodies at the old site, and they're going to be reburied at the thing. So as soon as it's done, you will see the demolition of the prisons. We have to try to preserve some of the structures that are there so that we can satisfy the trust. And yes, this is where we're going to go. But in the meantime, Tim, I'm asking St. Lucians to be a little patient, to understand the constraints the government has to work with, and eventually we will get.
Have you gotten the acceptance from the St. Lucia National Trust on your plans on this?
They have. That's what I'm saying. They have accepted what we agreed to.
Because I think the matter was taken to court, and then the decision was taken that the two sides should come together and try to settle it amicably.
That has been settled amicably. The guy who is going to be doing the work has given them the drawings, and they have accepted that we can go ahead.
So how soon are you hoping to start construction of the House of Justice? During the course of into November.
I think very early next year we will start. We will start because I think we have the money. The Prime Minister has indicated where the source of the money is going to come from, and so we have something to start off with, and so on. But Tim, justice is difficult. So I was going and I was telling you that we have to have another plan. So high-profile cases, we can now decide, well, okay, when these high-profile cases come, we are going to do it at Borderley. Okay, so the magistrates go up there and they do the cases at Borderley. So there are things that we can do, and I do not want people to panic and have this sort of outpouring of hatred and ridicule, because it was not done in a manner that we just did it. We did our survey. The police came in and gave us the security plan and all these other things and so on. All right, and also the police officers or the prison officers who bring prisoners to the court have to understand that's a main road, and you have to do it in such a way that you don't impede the traffic so badly that persons have to veer to other sides and all these other things. It is a compromise that we must have as St. Lucians. Okay, and that's all I say on that matter.
Moving on to the recent fire in the William Pitt Boulevard, investigations are still ongoing.
Yes.
What is being done to provide the St. Lucia Fire Service with the trained personnel, or do you have the trained personnel to determine the cause of a fire? Because very often we hear it's under investigation and the cause is unknown.
I think I know for a fact that the fire officers, there's one officer who is trained in arson investigation, but that's not sufficient. Sometimes you can be sick, you can be on maternity leave, you can be on vacation and so on. And again, that's when my trip, and I mentioned earlier, that it's not only the police that's going to get the training, but the firemen and the prison officers. So it's a holistic thing that we're going to be doing. If you look at the height of the building, you would have had to have a ladder truck to do that. Unfortunately, we have a truck. Okay, that truck was donated by the Japanese, and it's at Grozile, but it has not been commissioned, and it has not been insured, and the persons are coming now to do the training. So it's unfortunate that this incident happened before we commissioned the truck, but the truck is there.
The truck has been here for how long now?
It's been here for 2 weeks.
Only 2 weeks?
Yeah,
okay.
Only 2 weeks. And the Japanese are going to come down to give the firemen the requisite training in climbing these ladders and knowing how to do the work up there. We have also gotten information that the Canadians have recognized the need and are willing to give us another truck with the similar apparatus. And that truck we will determine to put it in the south of the island, so that North has one and the South has one. So Tim, we are trying our very best. The Japanese also gave us some ambulances. The fire officers have some very old equipment, very, very, very old, similarly to the police. If the police have about 183 vehicles, at least 100 are over 10 years old. Okay, so we know. And one of the things we're trying to do, the Prime Minister has tried to do, is to see another way of financing vehicles for those departments, especially the police. So we go to one of the companies, like Northwest or JQs or one of them, and they give us the vehicles on a 5-year thing. So we pay for 5 years, and they can take the vehicles back and then give us another set of vehicles. Because Tim, a police vehicle that is 5 years old really is 20 years old, because it doesn't stop. So one driver jumps in, as soon as he leaves, the other shift comes in, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. That's the thing. So the wear and tear of those vehicles is immense. And like I told you, at least 100 of those vehicles, they are over 10 years old. And so we have to replenish that. But the way is the finances. Okay? So we're trying by bits and pieces to see how we can assist the police so that they can do their patrols and so on. So that's what it is.
But with regard to the fire, how would you respond to a fire, let's say, with the government buildings on the waterfront? You have 6-story buildings, you have 5-story buildings, and so on.
Well, that's why we got a truck.
So that particular truck will be able to respond to this,
yes,
a fire of that nature.
Of that nature.
Okay.
Yes.
How are relations between your ministry and the fire officers, in particular the Fire Service Association?
Well, I think is very good. And although maybe some last year persons may think that I had an issue or problem with Shane, I always feel that Shane was doing his job. Maybe he is exuberant and maybe sometimes would go overboard. But I also think that he had the fire service at heart, and he really wanted to see something done for them. And he was able to get quite a few things done. On your show, we were able to change the way that the probationers were being dealt with. So you're probationer for 2 years, but every 6 months you were being assessed, and then the reports would have to go to your divisional officer, then to the chief, then to the Ministry of Home Affairs, and then to public service, and then finance. That would sometimes take a month or two, and those persons' salaries would be stopped. And that couldn't be fair. And remember, we brokered the deal right on your show, and that has happened. We have also now starting to look at the legislation to change it, because the legislation is almost 50 years old. So we are looking and working on that. That is being done. The other thing that's been done for the fire service is that a lot of the officers worked in positions higher than what they were supposed to work in. And now we have agreed that we are giving them the honorarium. That has been settled. The cabinet conclusion has been passed, and at least 19 of these officers will be getting paid an honorarium. So that is another promise that we have kept to the fire service.
What about headquarters? Are you all there for the long haul?
No, well, again, for this year we have it in the budget. But Tim, again, is...
And I hope the landlord is not watching this broadcast, because I'm sure he would be disappointed me raising this particular issue. But
No.
No, but are you looking to have your own...
Yes, we have to look at our own. I mean, when you look at the cost factor of paying rent for all those years, I mean, we could have had 2 fire headquarters. But again, it's the location. The fire station cannot be too far away from town, from the city. And so we are looking at a few areas. And I did have an area in mind, but the last time I brought it up, I don't think that I got the kind of support. But I will again bring it. I'll bring it up again because I think that is one of the areas that we can look at. But it's important that we have our own fire station. The amount of money that we pay into the landlord there is really too much. I'm not saying it's too much for the rental, but we have, over the years, we have paid too much money that we could have had our own headquarters. So we are working towards that with the fire officers. If
the Prime Minister decides tomorrow to reshuffle his cabinet, and would you want to give up the current portfolios, Home Affairs, Justice, National Security?
No, I don't want to give it up because I like a challenge. And that was one of the reasons why, and I'm saying it again, the Prime Minister and myself never had a discussion as to whether I should get a ministry. We never had that discussion. It was at the meeting at Jack Mill. And I remember speaking first. I opened the debate that evening. And then Dominic spoke after. And then it was time for the Prime Minister to speak. He called Dominic and myself and asked us to sit to the front. I had no idea what he wanted to do. But he's the boss. I followed instructions. And at that meeting, he said that we were going to make a dusbal. That if we won the elections, Ansari for the very first time would have 2 ministers. And I said to myself, but I have a job. I'm working at Windjammer. I'm happy in my job. The salary that I'm going to get in the government does not compare favorably to what I'm getting at Windjammer. I've had a sort of rapport with the people at Windjammer. When I came in there, it was fractious and very, very troubling because a lot of robberies and all sorts of things. And I stopped that. So for 7 years, Windjammer stayed without a robbery. Okay? And everybody is happy. So it would have been difficult for me to leave that. But then when I recognized that the police had this issue with the minister, and I couldn't see it being rectified, and I accepted. And it has been good. I have traveled with the police to Grenada, and that's the first time they won the T20 competition in the Windward Islands. That's the first time, and Barbados. So my rapport with the police is very good. I attend all the functions, and the very same thing in Bodley. I actually play cricket with the prisoners. And I think I'm the most accessible minister available. And all of them will tell you that. I do everything with them. And sometimes people ask me whether I'm the minister for true. Because I'm just on the ground playing with them, having fun. But when the time comes to work, you have to do the work. So I wouldn't really like to leave, but if that's the purview of the Prime Minister.
Some people are carrying out their own assessment with regard to your performance. And in some instances, if you listen to the talk shows, I don't know if that's the right barometer, but it does not appear too favorable in terms of how people assess you. Yeah. Do you think that you can do a lot better as minister with responsibility for Home Affairs?
Of course, Kim, I think I can do a lot better with the finances, with the training for the police officers, training for the firemen. If I get all these things, of course I would do better. But I mean, persons are entitled to their opinions. Sometimes I hear certain things that really are ridiculous and like the CCTV cameras. I mean, from day one, I entered as a minister. Digicel has been speaking to us. I went to Haiti with the Commissioner of Police so that we can watch at Safe City Haiti. And we saw how it worked in Haiti. We then came back and they brought us to Antigua to see the same sort of system in Antigua. And I was impressed. And so they then made a presentation to cabinet and everything like that and so on. So they have been very consistent. So when your famous caller from the United States, and I'm surprised I got to know who it was, I'm surprised that he feels that sort of way about me. He says that he doesn't have anything personal, but he seemed to be on the attack all the time. And said that he has information that 2 other companies sent in proposals. Up to a day like today, he has not been able to furnish you with those companies. And as I sit here, Tim, if he can send these proposals to you, and it is addressed to me, and I responded, I would resign my position. But I'm adamant that nothing like that happened. There's a young man presently, he has some CCTV cameras, and he wants to get the government to assist him. And Mr. King and myself have spoken about it. And I think this system is a very good system for the schools, for police stations, and those areas. And we're going to try and see how to assist him because he's a young St. Lucian. He does not have the finances and so on. And I think we need to speak with, I'm going to speak to the Prime Minister and Cabinet of Ministers to see how we can assist this young St. Lucian. But that's the only other person that has ever spoken to me about cameras. My brother went to New York, and New York Borough of Brooklyn said that they were willing to give him cameras if he wanted. So person can get those sort of thing, but not any official document ever came to me indicating that they wanted to partner with the ministry on putting CCTV cameras in St. Lucia. Okay, so you get these little things, and then persons say, well, boy, when the minister was a deputy commissioner, he was tough on crime and bad like pepper, and so on. Now that he's minister, he's just there quiet, saying. But that's what I'm telling you, Tim. Some people want you to get involved with the police, and some say, and so you stay far away from it, and others are criticizing you and still saying that you're involving yourself with it. What do? So you do the right thing.
Are you looking forward to entering the political arena, contesting general elections of 2021, if given the opportunity?
Oh, if given me the opportunity, Tim, I love it. And I always told the person that the guy I was really aiming for is Dr. Kenny Anthony. If I given that opportunity, I would.
You'd want to contest for South?
I would.
Why would you want to contest against Dr. Kenny Anthony?
Caution.
It appears to be a safe seat.
It's a safe seat? Well, that's again, Tim. I like challenges. Okay? And I think that Viewfort has been neglected for 25 years. And you get a good candidate there. Okay? That candidate can beat Kenny Anthony.
And you believe that you stand a chance if you're given the opportunity?
Yes.
Are you interested?
I was, but I've withdrawn my interest.
So you're not looking forward to contesting any of the seats come the next election?
It depends on the party. If the party tells me that they want me to run a particular seat, I would do it. But me actually asking the party to run any seat, no. I wanted to run the V4 seat. And for reasons that I wouldn't want to disclose there, I've withdrawn myself. Yeah. But I know for a fact that I can beat Kenny Anthony.
On that note, let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll be hearing from you. You'll be able to call us. And you'll be able as well to invite your questions via our chat room on Facebook. And I'll be reading those questions live on the air, on television, as well as on Facebook. My guest, once again, the island's Minister for Home Affairs, Justice and National Security, Senator Herman Gill Francis. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You are watching Newsmaker Live on DBS television as well as on Facebook. So please, you could utilize the chat room on Facebook to send your questions to the minister, and you can also call. We'll put a telephone number on screen right now so that you can call with your questions and comments for my guest, Senator Herman Gill Francis, who is the Minister for Home Affairs, Justice, and also National Security. Senator, what is the situation with regard to the forensic laboratory? But I'm told that we have a caller line already. Good evening to you. Go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Yes, I have this little problem. Mr. Minister, there's something I always say. The idea of the police officers coming from Bodley. I mean, this siren. This is very dangerous. I mean, this is exciting everybody. If there's a big criminal coming down, somebody could wait for this other and umbrella them. This is nonsense. They overly do it. They could, drive down the road easy. The amount of siren blowing from Bodley to town to the courthouse. That's ridiculous.
So can you ask the question again, please? So the minister can hear you clearly, and then go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I'm saying, the idea of the drivers that are coming from Bodley with the prisoners, and they use a siren from Bodley to the courthouse. That's ridiculous. You understand? Look, they'll be doing that. And the other thing again, other policemen here in town driving, abusing siren. They abuse that all the time. One man just flying down the road there. Where you going? You didn't just Conway to the chaussee. Siren blazing. Here alone. Where you going? That's ridiculous.
Okay, sir.
It's high time to check on these guys, man.
Thank you so much, Mr. Minister.
Yeah, well, sometimes I hear the sirens, but I'm not too sure what is the circumstance under which the officers use the siren. My vehicle does have a siren, and I sometimes would use it if I am late for a function or there's an emergency that I have to deal with. I would use it, but in a manner that does not cause too much panic with other drivers. But this is a matter that I can speak to the authorities on and see how best we can curtail some of that excessive siren use.
Do you have another caller line? Hello, good evening to you, Newsmaker Live. You on the air?
Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening to you, caller.
Good evening, sir.
I want to address a question to the minister.
Yes.
Mr. Minister, supposing the bomb scares we're getting were coming from, say, one of the various businesses around the school. Let's say somebody was naughty enough and next week they would call and say there's a bomb at one of the businesses around the school. And maybe the week after we had the same thing again. Would we be asking for those businesses to be relocated?
No, but you're saying we. I wouldn't ask for it.
I mean the people who are asking for the courthouse to be relocated.
Yeah.
Do you think they'd be asking, or would it be fair for the school to ask for the businesses to be relocated?
But that's what I'm saying, sir. In that, at the end of the, that's what I'm saying at the end of the day.
Sorry for interrupting, but I don't want to hold up the line for too long.
Yes.
Supposing somebody was naughty enough and to make the call to the school and say there was a bomb.
But there was a call made to the school.
Should the businesses who would have been inconvenienced be asking for the school to be relocated?
Exactly, but I'm telling you, there was a call made to the school.
Right.
Right.
Now, I mean, that's not to say I don't take into account the concerns of the school, especially when you have little children, because children they panic a lot fast. They don't really know certain things. So I'm not saying that we should not pay attention to this, but I think we know what the problem is. The problem is not the location of the courthouse. Mr. Minister, we all know what the problem is. We have been having bomb scares in this country for over 10 years.
Yes.
Every time there's a call, the police comes, the bomb squad comes. Have they ever found a device even remotely looking like a bomb?
No, they have not found, but that doesn't mean that because you haven't found anything that you have to take chances.
But I'm saying to you, don't you think we need to approach this another way?
But you can't.
Okay, thank you so much, caller.
Yeah, But you can't approach it any other way. You have
Because
to take the precautions
we are
of
now
going.
making this. There are certain things that have now become extinct, and they don't work anymore.
What I'm saying is that we members of the public have to uphold this sort of behavior. We have to talk about it, and we have to make examples of the persons when we catch them.
Okay, caller, thank you so much for calling. Go ahead, Mr. Minister.
Yes.
You're saying?
I was saying that with the lab, we opened the lab I think in 2017 after it had been closed for a while, but then we had to we shut it down again, and then we had a reopening. But the reason for shutting down the lab was because of mold, the famous mold. And then the contractor went in there, and where the mold was, he had to break down some of the walls. And Tim, if you were to see what was happening in the walls there was no steel, no wire mesh, nothing whatsoever. So when it rained, the water was going through the blocks, and the blocks had water. So when they actually broke that, the whole lab was flooded. Okay, so we had to give the contractor additional money to deal with this matter. So somebody has asked and said that when is the lab going to be certified? And I did say that the lab is not going to be certified. The lab has to be accredited. Okay, so I now have some information from the lab as to how you get accreditation. So if I'm allowed, I can read it.
Do you have a caller? Okay, but go ahead.
Yes. Okay, accreditation is an assessment of the...
My apologies, Mr. Minister. We will allow you to go through this in a moment, but we have a call. Good evening. Newsmaker Live, you on the air?
Yes, good night, Mr. Leon, Mr. Minister.
Hi, good night to you, sir.
Good night, sir.
Yes, I want to talk about the vehicles, the police vehicles.
Yes.
Like 5 years is like 20 years.
Yeah, well,
I wonder if do you all have a preventative maintenance schedule for the vehicles?
Yes, we do. We do.
Well, can you give me some detail on what it's like?
Well, I mean, when you buy a new vehicle, from the area where you bought it, they will give you the services free for a certain amount of time. After that, you'd have to be paying for your services. So we have a garage. So after a number of years, we absorb, instead of paying for this thing, we absorb it with the officers at the garage, and they give the officers a schedule as to when to come in to have the vehicles inspected. But I'm telling you that these vehicles, when they spend 5 years, it's about 10, 15 years they've worked, because of the number of incidents they have to respond to. And sometimes a police station, like let's say Canaries, you only have one vehicle there, and you have to be going up to Ansere or up to Sofre at least 4 or 5 times per day. That is a lot of work for the
that's
vehicles.
quite understood. But right now, since you say that these vehicles are up and down, you have to compare, right? Or use the maintenance or create a maintenance schedule as to how often the vehicles are being used.
We have the maintenance schedule. Like I'm telling you, the vehicles are used on demand. So you want the police to patrol. So the police will patrol at a particular time. Okay. Then while they're at the station, they get a call for assistance. They still have to go out. And we don't have sufficient, because sometimes they're on one call and there's another emergency, and we have to either wait for Ansari or Marigo to try and assist them, and there's a delay.
Final comment from you, caller.
Okay, that's understood. Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Mr. Minister.
So accreditation is an assessment of the lab's policies and procedures through documentation and observation to demonstrate compliance with a particular standard. For testing labs like the Forensic Science Lab, the standard is a iOS 17025.217. The lab must establish, write down, and follow policies set after the sections of the standard. Then it must be established, write down, and follow procedures, new or established, according to the testing it will conduct that it wants to gain accreditation for. This is the documented evidence, procedures, case files, records, job descriptions, qualifications, etc. Then the lab chooses an accrediting body and decides when they will be ready for assessment. An application for accreditation follows, and then the lab prepares for the assessment based on what activities it wants accredited. This preparation process can take about 6 to 18 months, depending on the different activities to be accredited. Further, the more activities to be accredited, the more expensive it is. About 4 to 6 weeks before the assessment, the accrediting body Request the lab's documentation to determine the state of readiness for the lab for the assessment. This review can highlight major deficiencies that can delay the assessment, or it can indicate sufficient readiness. Then a lead assessor is chosen with a team of assessors, auditors, with expertise on every area being assessed. They then carry out an on-site visit to observe and witness the lab's activities, conduct interviews, observe casework, etc. Then they summarize their observations and inform of any deficiencies or non-conformities to the standard, and they grant a specific time frame, 8 weeks, within which those should be corrected. Once documented evidence or corrections are sent and approved by the accrediting body.
Okay, so
yes,
we'll continue.
so
Yeah.
there are quite a few things there.
Okay, we have a call? We lost the caller, but somebody was holding on.
Right.
But please call back and we'll put you on the air.
So after you have gained accreditation must then be maintained through periodic surveillance checks every 2 years to ensure the lab remains compliant with the standard and is continuously improving.
Okay, we have a call.
Yeah.
Good evening to you, sir. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm looking at is that with the number of vehicles we're importing from Japan, right?
Yes.
Everything is coming from Japan. I think by now the government is supposed to secure a deal with the car dealers of Japan to provide the police officers, the police department with vehicles at a low cost or even a free, a free fee, of those vehicles. Because
Hello? Okay, we lost the caller.
Yeah, but caller, I get the gist of your
The contribution.
yeah, and I think you're correct, because there isn't anything preventing the government from ordering from a reputable company, and then we get these services. The persons come down here, teach us how to maintain our vehicles and so on. And I'm sure, based on the volume that we purchase, that we would be getting some free vehicles. So yes, thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I will bring to the Prime Minister's attention.
Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you on the air?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you, sir.
Mr.
Good
Minister,
evening.
first
Yes?
and foremost, I'd like you to grade yourself. Take into consideration that under your stewardship, we've had the highest record of homicides
Yes.
on island ever recorded. Even with this, I want to applaud you for being one of our more friendly ministers. That's more approachable. You go on the shows and you speak. But I'd like you to honestly grade yourself. And to add, I would like to ask one question when it comes to the police and one with the fire service. Seeing what transpired in the city of Castries with the Getty building, would you honestly see Castries, the city of Castries, the fire service in that area is ready to service this city? Because you saw a system that we basically sitting on water in Castries. The city is on water. The city is built on water, and the fire service had no power when it came to getting water into that building. You see the pumps starting the fire service. Men and women working very hard, assiduously to try and put out the fires, but there was no water coming out of the systems. The trucks, you see them trying to get the velocity or the water pressure up, and it was just falling off. The thing was not reaching to the top of the building. There was like 3 or 4 fire trucks. I was there, I saw it, and there was no water in the systems. Knowing that we have a underground salt water system and all these things, and nothing worked. You understand? And then and I would also like to add, with the way the Castries city is mapped out, wouldn't it be best for the fire service to be somewhere on the port whereby they have access to the whole city? Because knowing Castries is always in a gridlock, and you have sometimes the siren woo, and the vehicles cannot move for the truck. So wouldn't it be best that that headquarters is located somewhere on the Castries port, so that they have access from government, from waterfront, all the way to Chaussee, To me, that would be the best area. When it comes to the police now, to me, the crime fighting system in place, something needs to be done because, yes, I understand the CCTV cameras. Yes, I understand this, I understand that. But when it comes to the community policing aspect, you find a lot of police people are not approachable because they're like Robocops, and people are you go to a police officer when you're in desperate situations because you're scared that your information will be out there. You're scared because we're in a small society. You're scared of so many things when it comes to the police, the way that they operate. So I just would like you to, just expound on those points, please.
All right.
Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you very much. I don't think that I will rate myself. I think it is for you, the public, to decide on the Prime Minister. And so I will go on from there. Like I said, from every experience, incident, we would learn. So this fire at Gaties there is going to be a learning curve for the fire service. And they were now going to be giving us recommendations as to how they could have done better. Like I said, every incident, there is going to be this learning curve. And whatever recommendations that they give, that we will see how best we can do it. We are looking for alternative venues to put the fire station. And I said that earlier, that we are actively looking into an area where we can put the fire service.
Good evening to you. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Good evening. I'm calling to commend Mr. Herman Gill Francis on a job well done for what he has been doing for the police officers and the firemen in St. Lucia.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Somebody sent a message via Facebook. Tim, please tell the minister the reason why there are never vehicles in the stations is because the officers go home with them. The vehicles should stay in the police stations and be transferred from one shift to the next. What say you?
Well, the police officers have no right to go home with the vehicles. The vehicles are supposed to remain at the police station. I know sometimes, the police officers have families, and maybe a family member needs an item or something that they may drop at their homes. But I don't think that police officers stay home with the vehicles. That is unacceptable, and if it is happening, then the commissioner must investigate and deal with it.
Once again, we continue to take your calls for the island's minister with responsibility for home affairs, justice, and national security, and that is Senator Herman Gill Francis. We have a caller 9. Good evening to you. You're on the air.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Minister.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Around the Ave Maria School, you had these people used to sell there.
Yes.
For 17 years. And you had the Labour Party, you had the UWP itself, and nobody could remove these people. It took Mr. Francis, Herman Gill, brother, to remove these people around the Ave Maria. And nobody never demonstrated. There was drug selling there, alcohol, all kinds of things selling around that school. So I cannot see the significance in these people demonstrating for what. Tomorrow you could have a bomb scare next door to the school, so these people will have to remove their building or remove their business from there. That's what I had to say.
Thank you very much, and I spoke to this earlier, that it is not the ideal situation, but it is for us as a citizenry to be able to deal with it. And I always said that instead of be crying where the office is, that we should be focusing on the persons who are causing this mischief, that we have to decry them at every opportunity, and when they are caught, and I'm sure I'm telling you that the police will catch a couple more, that we deal with them very seriously. But when we catch people, nobody makes any outcry, nobody says anything, and so it's like an everyday occurrence.
Once again, we continue to take your calls right here on DBS Television. You could send me your comments via Facebook, and I'll be going through those messages. I think we have one message, somebody saying you will see them using the vehicles carrying barrels, and there is a log at the port with the license plate of the vehicles that are collecting the barrels. Let's go to the telephone line. Good evening. Newsmaker Live.
Yes, good evening, Tim. How are you?
I'm okay. Good evening to you.
Thank you for taking my call. Tim, your
is that
last
Mr.
caller,
Norbert Williams?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Tim.
go ahead, please.
Good night to you and your guest. Tim,
Good evening.
your last caller made a very interesting observation. And this is something that I covered recently. And it's very strange that nobody had this outrage when the Ave Maria School failed its safety inspections for 16 years because of the vendors right outside the gate, around the school on the sidewalk. Nobody demonstrated. Nobody made any noise at all. Year in, year out. For 16 years, they failed their safety inspection by the fire service. But you see, it is important and it is of concern that there is bomb scare affecting the operations of the school. It's a problem that it affects any other business or operation around the city. But we have to be realistic about this. Now, I understand, Tim, that a number of persons from the school, whether they were teachers and students, had to be taken to the hospital. Why was that? Was it a chaotic evacuation of the school? And if you have such young students and you're evacuating under whatever protocols, whether they're from NEMO or police issued or fire service issued, why is it that it is important to inform the students, these kids, about what they're being moved for? If there's a drill, a fire drill, or whatever drill you want to call it, you keep that information from them. So it sounds to me that those students were alarmed or the situation was chaotic, and that could have only come from the persons evacuating the children from the school. And if that is the case, and if this is what caused students to be admitted or to be taken to the hospital, then these persons responsible for evacuating the school in an orderly and disciplined manner need to be taken back to classes.
Yeah, but if it's a bomb threat, how do you evacuate in an orderly and disciplined manner?
Well, Tim, it is their responsibility to do that, because if you don't, then you're going to have injuries. It's not like there are explosions down the road. A call comes in. According to what was said on the news today, there is a protocol. A call comes into the principal of the school or a police officer or whichever official comes and notifies the relevant person who has to effect the protocols for evacuation. It says you go out through this gate. You get the students out of the class and head them to Mindo Phillip Park or wherever it is. How can that be chaotic? So if it is, then the evacuation of the school is causing more harm or creating more problems than the bomb scare itself. That's my contribution for tonight, Tim.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sir Norbert Williams,
and that's what
the Prime Minister's attaché.
Yeah. And that's what I said earlier, that even if you have the protocol, it is the constant use of the protocol that will get you to a level of competency. If you have the protocol and you don't put it into practice, you're going to lose the competency. And so we have to do these exercises very often and learn from every exercise that we do. I'm not going to speculate as to what was said to the children or not. I think it was unfortunate the children got hurt, and we just have to do better so that it does not happen again.
Final call. Good evening to you. This is Newsmaker Live. You're on the air.
Good evening, Tim, and good evening, Mr. Minister.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Yes. Mr. Minister, the government has an intention of building another fire station in Castro City?
Yes,
okay. Thanks a lot.
We do. As a matter of fact, going through the budget presentation from my ministry this morning with my PS and my FA, we did see the request made by the fire for us to move. And like I said, it is for us to identify a suitable area. And this is where members of the public comes in. If you have the foresight and you can see a suitable place, then you can make a recommendation to government, and we will see how feasible it is. It is our government. It is not left to the Prime Minister or to the Minister of Home Affairs to think that they know everything and can cure all ills. It is for us as a collective, and as our independence film said, all in. That is what we must do. But before we end, I want to talk about...
Hold on, I think the caller is still on. You have a follow-up question, sir? Hello?
Hello?
Do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I'm not finished yet. Huh?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Minister, I'm back to you again.
Yes.
The reason my question is that if you realize at present, you have all the tall buildings are in Castries City, and the facility has an appliance which can handle this high-rise building. But this appliance is located in Grosillet.
Yeah, hello, but I did say earlier that the appliance just came in about 2 weeks ago from Japan.
No.
We have not commissioned it.
No,
and it's
no.
not just,
what I'm
it's
saying,
not
I
just
know
being
they had
able to just
an
commission
appliance
it.
is capable of handling this high-rise building.
Yes.
But at Grosillet, simply because of no space in Castries.
No. It is placed there because it has not been commissioned. So we have to commission it first.
I am
because
not mistaken. I'm saying they have had an appliance for years now,
yes,
which is able to handle the tall building in Castries. But the fact that because since after the earthquake in 2007,
yes,
they were located at Grosillet because of no space in Castries.
Yes, you're correct.
And secondly, if you realize now, the fire service in Castries now is on the one-way street. So in case of emergency somewhere else, you cannot break the law as far as fire service is concerned.
The fire service can do that. In emergencies, they can go up a one-way.
However, to further my question,
the police can do that.
There is a sea pump in Castries.
Yes.
At the same waterfront where the fire was before. And I'm saying, no matter where you build a fire station, you still in the sea pump in Castries.
Yes.
So why not they build a fire station back where it was on Jeremy Street, so the vehicle fire service can move easier access to north or south whatever point on Castries? Because presently they are renting a fire station. Am I correct? They are renting the fire station right now in Castries. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Yeah, it's a rental thing. So what's about for the past from 2007 up to now?
Yes.
Well, that's about what it's about. 12 years now been renting a place for a fire station.
You're correct, sir.
So had they built a fire station for a few $1 million, it's much cheaper. And surprising, the rate of rental right now is about $84,000 a month.
Agreed.
That's a very lot of money.
Yeah.
And yes, they cannot accommodate all the equipment that the fire is required wherever it's located at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to take your suggestion, and again, at Cabinet on Monday, I will, obviously I have to give a report to the Prime Minister as to how the show went. Yeah, but I hope that he's listening and watching.
No, Norbert Williams is watching. His
yes,
attaché is watching.
So, right.
He's just called.
Some of the recommendations that you're making, that we will see how best we can.
You were saying, caller?
Yeah, I was saying there was no water during the fire on the boulevard. I don't only overheard, but I'm saying they have a competent sea pump that cannot run out of water because water is from the sea. So I don't understand how people were saying that.
Yes, but as again, like I said, every incident you must have a postmortem. So when the fire chief or the deputy, they will come out with a report and indicate, well, this is the reason why that happened, and this is the procedure that was followed. But because of A, B, and C, that they could not have done better. But I want to commend the firemen and in fact the fire officers for doing a very good job. That the fire didn't spread, and it was contained in that building.
Okay then.
Yes.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you so much. Final comments from you, Mr. Minister?
Okay. Well, the final comments I want to make, Tim, is that, like I said earlier, we are seeing the house break-ins, the robberies, and the thefts of motor vehicles. What is also happening is that the thieves or the criminals are now stealing a lot of electronics, and persons are purchasing these electronics. And if we stop that, I think the guys would recognize that they don't have a market, and they would stop. But they have a ready market, and they steal, and as soon as they come off the house, somebody's out there waiting to purchase the item at rock bottom price. Like I said, our independence theme for the 40th year is all in, and I think it has to take the police, it has to take the government, and I say government, I mean the United Workers' Party, the St. Lucia Labour Party, the citizenry of this country, the judiciary, the churches. Everybody must be all in for us to fight this scourge of crime.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for being my guest on this evening's Newsmaker Live. And to you, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked. Once again, that's the broadcast. Please join me tomorrow afternoon between 12:30 and 2 o'clock on Real FM 91.3 North and 91.5 South for Newspin. Good night and see you next time.